Nowadays, it really does seem like there are just no more rules when it comes to Miss Universe. It used to be the case back when Miss Universe started that you had to be, first of all, born female, you had to be between certain ages, especially recently under the age of 28, and among other things, you had to be strictly unmarried and never have been pregnant and never have had any children. Besides that, there have always been a lot of unspoken rules with regards to body size, race, etc., etc. But nowadays, it really does seem like Miss Universe is sort of a free-for-all and open, truly open to all women for the first time in history. So I thought in this video, we should go over some of the more sort of interesting rule changes that have occurred during Miss Universe's history. First of all, most recently, there is no more age limit for Miss Universe. Okay, that is a lie because you still have to be an adult female, so you have to be over the age of 18. Besides that, there is absolutely no cap on how old a Miss Universe can be from this point forward. Now, it doesn't apply to this year's Miss Universe competition, but as of the 2024 edition of Miss Universe can be 18 or she can be 30 or 80 or however old women get. That is the new age range for a Miss Universe. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about this, sort of making fun of the fact that we will be seeing these 70, 80-year-old grannies on the Miss Universe stage, and I do not think that that is going to happen because there are still some unspoken rules and standards when it comes to physical appearance for Miss Universe. I think it will always be the case that Miss Universe will appear young-ish. She will always have a sort of youthful appearance about her. I think that that is not going to change anytime soon in pageantry, let alone for Miss Universe. But I do think it is interesting that Miss Universe have decided to get rid of the age cap altogether. I never in a million years would have thought that Miss Universe would have done that. I did expect them to raise the age limit somewhat, perhaps to mid-30s, perhaps even early 40s, or cap it out at 40, but I never thought that they would just get rid of it altogether. Of course, with Albany's final answer last year, which I don't know, it gave me a bit of alarm bells when I saw that Miss Universe ended up changing the rule altogether, just because Albany was the one who stated. How did she know? That's what I'm getting at. How did Albany know to give that answer and then Miss Universe changed it? Or did Miss Universe change the age cap because of Albany? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Albany said in her final answer, one of her final answers last year at Miss Universe, that Miss Universe should definitely get rid of the age limits because she was 28. She was the oldest at the time age that you could be in order to partake in Miss Universe. And so she said that if she were to change any Miss Universe rule, she would definitely get rid of the age limits. And that's what ended up happening. And I do definitely think that it's interesting that Miss Universe has decided to do this because Miss Universe is not the first pageant to start allowing women over 30, one of the first international pageants. I mean, Miss Supranational, prior to Miss Universe changing their rule and getting rid of age limits altogether, Miss Supranational also decided to raise their age limits slightly from 29 to 32, which I don't think is that much of a difference, but hey, I think that it was still a big step. Perhaps I thought that perhaps it would be even better to raise it to the mid-30s, but then again, I think perhaps that getting rid of age limits in pageantry altogether is also a great step and very progressive from Miss Universe's side, because let's face it, nowadays with technology and all of the procedures that women have done, and just life starting way later. A lot of women are only starting families in their mid-30s, and before that they still want to achieve some goals and do things like going to Miss Universe and things like that. And so I do not think that we should just limit the Miss Universe experience to women in their 20s or in their late teens, basically 18, 19, 20, and in their 20s. I think that definitely it's a good idea to open it up to women who are still willing and capable in their 30s, perhaps even early 40s. So we'll have to see. I think it's a great step that Miss Universe has taken towards being truly inclusive to all women. Speaking of being inclusive to all women, this was also a very big step that Miss Universe has taken, and Miss Universe so far is the only one to make this rule change. All of the other 5 international pageants that I follow personally still have this rule in place that you should be unmarried and have no children. Miss Universe is not doing that anymore. In fact, they've also recently changed their rules in order to accommodate mothers and wives. Of course, under the umbrella of mothers and wives, this also includes women who are legal guardians to minors, women who have been divorced, women who are currently pregnant. That was a big shock to everyone. Women who have been pregnant, women who have had a marriage annulled, etc., etc. All of that, all of the things that apply to motherhood and marriage for women, those women are all allowed at Miss Universe now, whereas they weren't in the past. So I definitely think that that is a great step, because there have been many women in Miss Universe's history who have had a sneaky divorce or have been married and had children and things, and maybe it was only discovered after they competed. I know with Leona Gage, who was Miss USA in the 50s, she was married and had 2 children, competed at Miss USA, went on to Miss Universe, but couldn't compete at Miss Universe because shortly after she won Miss USA, it was discovered that she was actually a mother and a wife, and thus she couldn't compete at Miss Universe, which is a huge shame. So nowadays, Leona would be able to compete at Miss Universe, which I think is amazing. This year, we have 2 mamas competing at Miss Universe. Colombia's Camilla Avello, who is a wife and a mother to a daughter, as well as Guatemala's Michelle Cohn, who is a mother of 2. And honestly, I see nothing wrong with mothers and wives competing at Miss Universe if they feel comfortable with it. I know a lot of mothers who would never conceive of competing at Miss Universe, having to live alone for a year away from their husband and children in New York City, but some women are perfectly willing and able and capable of organizing their life in a way where it is possible for them to do that comfortably. And so I have absolutely no issues with mothers and wives competing at Miss Universe. And of course, one of the older rule changes that I don't think a lot of new pageant fans know about that much, but it has been in effect for the past 10 or 11 years, is that trans women are welcome at Miss Universe, and they have been since 2012. Of course, we know that the very first trans women to compete at Miss Universe was Angela Ponce, who represented Spain back in 2018. Unfortunately, she didn't place, but that was a huge milestone for Miss Universe to have their first trans contestant. This year, there are 2 trans contestants competing at Miss Universe in the form of the Netherlands and Portugal. So this is actually very interesting, and I do not think that in the future we will see 2 contestants who are trans at Miss Universe anytime soon, just because it is such a rarity. I mean, within the past 10 years, like I said, there has only ever been 1, and she went unplaced. And so I do think that this year is a bit of a rare year at Miss Universe for many reasons, but also because there are 2 trans women competing at Miss Universe. Now, no matter what a person's opinion is on trans women competing with other women at Miss Universe. I do think that if you are against it, perhaps it would be best to just stop watching Miss Universe, to be honest, because I do not think that this is something that's going to be changed soon, especially because Miss Universe is now also owned by a trans woman. So it's definitely not something that's going to change soon. But for me personally, I cannot in good conscience make a logical argument against trans women competing against, other women at Miss Universe, because they have no advantage in the way that trans women may have an advantage competing against cis women in women's sport. For that, I do have my opinions on that as well, because it is a bit tricky when it comes to the biology of it all. People who have gone through male puberty obviously will have an advantage over women when it comes to physically demanding sports, but Miss Universe is not a physically demanding sport. And so for that reason, I really do not see the argument against having trans women competing with cis women at Miss Universe. I do not see the logic in the argument for that. But everyone is allowed to have their own opinions on a topic. But for me, it's just I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about trans women competing at Miss Universe, to be honest with you. Lastly, this year at Miss Universe, there is, I think for the first time ever, a truly plus size woman competing at Miss Universe. And I'm using the word truly plus size, meaning that I don't want to assume anybody's size, but I would reckon that she is between like a size UK 14, 16, around there, which I think fits snugly into the plus size category that as we know it. So Nepal this year has elected a woman who is, like I said, for the first time ever considered truly plus size to represent them at Miss Universe. Now, this is an unspoken rule because we know what we are expecting to see on the stage when we are watching Miss Universe. We have the blueprint of the type of woman that we have always seen at Miss Universe. Usually a very slim woman, not too disproportionate proportions. So usually a woman who is sort of straight size. Her boobs aren't extremely big. Her hips aren't extremely out of proportion. It's usually just, your average tall, slim, Victoria's Secret looking woman there on the stage, right? She might be a little bit toned, but definitely not too muscular. That's also something that we usually do not see. And so, for example, we know what we are expecting to see on the stage. And I think that this year, Nepal is sort of breaking that barrier. There have been a couple of women in the past who have been given a lot of nonsense about their bodies not fitting this perfect pageant mold that we are used to seeing, not being perfectly injectable into the blueprint that we know. For example, in 2016, when Siera Bearchell, representing Canada, was maybe like 1 or 2 sizes bigger than what we would expect. She was probably like between a size 10 and size 12, and a lot of people gave her a lot of nonsense about her body, saying like, why is this whale on stage, etc. It was horrible. It was horrible. Looking back at pictures of Siera Bearchell, I cannot believe that people used to say that she's fat. This is a perfectly normal looking, healthy woman, just amongst women who just so happen to be extremely slim. And I think that a lot of people tend to make the argument that, well, Miss Universe contestants work really hard on their bodies. Sure, if a woman is toned, in the sense that you can see she really goes to the gym and applies herself, but then there's also a lot of women who just so happen to be tall and skinny, but they're the sort of skinny that you can see it doesn't really take any effort, besides maybe eating less than the general population. I have my own thoughts, but yes, I think that for the first time ever, the unspoken rule of having a certain body type when you go to Miss Universe has been officially broken by Nepal, and this is a huge shock, and people have been really, really nasty about it. To be honest with you, I think the more diversity, the better. I think that it's nice to just see real people from time to time, to be honest with you, because I also do not think that Nepal necessarily is a weight that can truly be considered detrimental to her health. Yes, she is a little bit more plus size than we are used to seeing, but honestly, it's not in the sense that she looks extremely unhealthy. As long as someone doesn't represent, really, really bad health, I do not mind seeing them at Miss Universe. But we all know that in the pageant world, right, we can sometimes be a bit hypocritical, because a lot of times in the pageant world, we like to pretend that yes, we love all women and all women are beautiful and we love to see diversity and all of that. But what happened when Harnaaz was crowned with her sort of Victoria's Secret-esque type of body, and then 3 months after, yes, she gained like 10k, 12k, and then everybody was dogging on her. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of loud people in the comments were absolutely tearing her apart over her weight. And the thing with Harnaaz, right, what I think happened is, yes, she talked about having celiac disease, which could definitely also play a role, but she moved from India, where Indian food is delicious. Don't get me wrong, I grew up in South Africa. South Africa has a large population of Indians living in it. Indian food is, but it's low calorie. Generally, you can't eat a lot of it because it's spicy a lot of the time and rich food, and it's, at the end of the day, you don't end up eating a lot of it, and a lot of the times it's also low in calories. And so she moved from India to the US, to New York, where I do not think fast food would be difficult to come by. Fast, with large amounts, and what I have been thinking this entire time is she simply started consuming more calories and she gained weight as a result. But that doesn't even matter, because at the end of the day, we as the pageant world like to pretend, yes, we love all women, but we still have this standard, this blueprint in our mind. And that's actually, after Harnaaz's reign, I'm glad to see a country being brave and being like, well, we are sending a woman with a perfectly normal looking body to Miss Universe. Deal with it. Let me know what you guys think about Miss Universe throwing all rules out the window this year. I would love to know you guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!